and Dottie Miller. Self-proclaimed ecumeniacs, Alan and Dottie Miller devoted their lives to dialogue with persons of different religious faiths and people around the world. Through their travels, teachings, writing, leadership, and speaking, the Millers touched the lives of thousands of people in St. Louis and around the world, emphasizing the need to build bridges of understanding between faiths and cultures.
When I think of mission in Eden Seminary, those are the two people I think of, is Dot and Alan Miller.
Dr. Alan Ott Miller was on the faculty at Eden Theological Seminary as professor of systematic theology and philosophy beginning in 1946 and retiring in 1978, but continuing to teach classes at Eden and other colleges in St. Louis. He was honored in 1996 for 50 years of teaching. Mrs. Dottie Iyer Miller served in leadership in multiple community, church, and interfaith organizations. Both Millers taught, wrote, traveled, and lived hospitality. They were a team, raising a family, studying together, comparing notes, and sharing in public presentations.
Alan and Dottie, they just functioned so beautifully together as a couple. And I think once he was fully retired, it seemed like everything they did together.
Many know Alan and Dottie Miller as part of their global family. At the time of his retirement from full-time teaching in 1978, Dr. Miller expressed this in his own words: "May I thank God for the gift of an insatiable love of wisdom, people, and travel, and for the sustaining grace of continuing good health, a loving wife and family, and a host of adopted academic children and grandchildren strategically placed around the world."
A lot of people understand the importance of world mission, but they just had such a passion for it.
In 1984, when a program fund at Eden was established in their name to celebrate their 50th wedding anniversary and to continue this legacy, their friend, O. Walter Wagner, exclaimed, "Just as Alan and Dottie set the ecumenical style for dialogue and genuine pluralism, so they set the mode for world mission. Their example and their fund call us to action, not rhetoric, to do justice, to love mercy, and to walk humbly with all the inhabitants of our global village." The legacy of Alan O. and Dottie Miller continues to guide and inspire.
Alan and Dottie Miller were student-centered teachers. At the 50th anniversary of Alan's Eden teaching, their daughter, Carol, testified that for her father, teaching was an investment in people.
At Eden Seminary, I took an intro to philosophy class with Dr. Alan Miller, a dynamic little guy, but full of energy. And he was the king of charts. He had charts for every philosophical or church historical movement you can imagine, and showered his students with charts in every class period. We held on to every chart he passed out and puzzled over them. He was a good lecturer, and like many others on the faculty at that time, just so full of energy in the classroom.
Dottie served on the Webster Grove Foreign Student Program for 35 years, and through that helped bring over 28 students from countries around the world to study on the Eden campus. While the students were here, they would share information on their countries with people in the St. Louis area. The Millers engaged in active correspondence with more than 300 persons throughout the world, keep their conversation and speaking engagement lively and educational with current information.
By bringing these folks to the States and to Eden Seminary, he was giving expression to his, not only his understanding and love of pluralism and belief in pluralism, but expanding our understanding of ecumenism by helping us think in terms of ecumenism beyond just the Christian faith community. So he just always impressed me as one who just was so incredibly open to the world.
Their home was a global gathering space of hospitality and engagement. Daughter Carol gave thanks that she could hardly remember a dinner in her growing up years that there were not Eden students at the table, and no Thanksgiving that was not shared with students whose first language was not English. The Millers called their home in De Pere the Treehouse.
It was kind of maybe mid-century modern, with big windows and a kind of airy feel. And they called it, and we called it, the treehouse. And it was just, the treehouse was open to students all the time. So their witness to peace and to justice was amazing to me.
For Ellen and Dottie, academic work was reflection on experience. Ellen described his ministry as a three-legged stool: the classroom, the church, and the world.
We stumbled in to then evangelical church in Webster Groves. And I just can't tell you what that experience was like. It was like, for both of us, it was like falling in love. A community of Christians, the energy and commitment of which we'd never seen the like. And so we were very quickly very active. And Alan and Dottie Miller were a part of that community. I sang in the choir with Dottie.
They were members at Kirkwood Church, but we didn't see them all that often because more than likely they were off at some other congregation doing an adult education class, or maybe speaking during a worship service. Maybe Dottie would even share her solo voice.
Through the experiences and relationship built during their many global travels, probably 86 countries, Ellen and Dottie wrote, reflected, and presented. Dottie's two books gained popularity. Around the World in 99 Bats, published in 1974, later went into a second printing. In it, she remembers breaking a leg in Zambia, lizard-consuming bugs on her legs in the darkness in the Philippines, supporting women's rights everywhere, and an emphasis on evangelism, agriculture, healthcare, education, and political liberation. Her 1990 book, Around Africa in 39 Bats, utilized the same style of reflection on their ecumenical and interfaith experiences.
Their travels were all part of Allen's leadership of the North American area of the World Alliance of Reformed Churches, which he chaired from 1960 through 1984. As a delegate to the Faith and Order Commission of the World Council of Churches in Lund in 1952 and Oberlin in 1957. Allen was a member of the commission to prepare a UCC Statement of Faith in 1958. He published an interpretation of that Statement of Faith in 1990. He translated the Heidelberg Catechism into English in 1963 at its 400th anniversary. That translation becoming a Reformation doctrinal standard from his earliest teaching days, he framed his theological vision as 3 R's: revelation, reconciliation, and revolution.
Several times, Ellen was tapped by the ecumenical community to edit or contribute writings to books that emerged from global ecumenical conversation. In 1970, he edited a series of papers collected in preparation for the Nairobi World Council of Churches Assembly. It was published as Reconciliation in Today's World. A World Alliance meeting in Nairobi in 1975 began a collaboration with German liberation theologian Jürgen Moltmann, which resulted in the 1977 book, A Christian Declaration of Human Rights, published by the World Alliance of Reformed Churches. Miller's 1992 book, Covenant College to Our Broken World, resulted from the World Alliance of Reformed Churches.
Eden's sabbatical and summer teaching put Alan Miller on a path to engagement with interfaith pluralism. He taught and traveled in Southeast Asia, in the Soviet Union, Switzerland, East and West Germany, in the People's Republic of China, Cuba, Greece, Israel, Egypt, Nicaragua, and Japan. His concentration was on the five religio-political messianic movement rooted in the family of Abraham as Judaism, Christianity, Islam, liberal humanism, Marxian humanism.
Alan Miller's teaching locations were self-consciously ecumenical and interfaith spaces. It was into this teaching role that he incorporated the study of world religions and ecumenism. He introduced dialogue as a means of involving persons of different religious heritages.
From seminary, a small group, to the art museum when we were studying comparative religion, and it was a real treat to have him talking about these artifacts and cultures with his personal experience and knowledge, and the rest of us were inspired by his presence.
When Houston Smith left the Department of Religion at Washington University to go to MIT in 1958, Dr. Miller was asked to carry on Smith's popular course, Religions East and West. The Metropolitan Church Federation of St. Louis named Allen 1962 Ecumenical Man of the Year for his support of human rights, civil liberties, and his ecumenical concerns and his peace efforts. Allen represented the United Church of Christ on the subsequent group called the Interfaith Clergy Council. Dr. Miller taught at Tillich Seminar at Seminex following the split in the Lutheran seminaries in St. Louis. And in 1965, he began an association with Kendrick Seminary, a Catholic seminary in St. Louis, lecturing in Protestant theology and ecumenics. In 1976, Kendrick awarded him the Peter Richard Kendrick Award. Allen coordinated an academic symposium in 1983, which involved Protestant, Catholic, and Jewish participants. It was called Ecumenism, Recovering Unity in Difference, Covenanting Community in Variety. Dr. Miller's course at Webster University, introduced in 1980, was The Faith of Abraham, Christianity, Judaism, and Islam. The course was a team-taught cooperative effort with Rabbi Robert Jacobs of the St. Louis Rabbinical Association and head of the Jewish Center at Washington University, and with Dr. M. Wahid Rana, Imam of the St. Louis Muslim community. The goals of the Allen O. and Dottie Miller Professorship continue in this day, enabling Eden to be a resource for the community and the church for global, ecumenical, and interfaith commitments to flourish. The Miller's legacy encourages dialogue of Christians among each other and with other religious traditions, and the global engagement of faculty and students.
They did so much to help many of us think outside of our small boxes that we had grown in. And, you know, if you didn't have an opportunity to travel a lot, it was harder to get out of that box. But Alan and Dottie helped us do that.
The statement at the time the Miller Programming Fund was established rings true through the current endowed faculty chair. Alan and Dottie Miller won't live forever, but their spirits will, in the memories of the people they have met and loved, in the questions they have raised, and in the understanding they have helped to build among peoples of different faiths and cultures. Their lives of interfaith dialogue and building bridges will continue through the programming of the Miller Fund. St. Louis and the world will have benefited richly and continue to do so from the lives of these two very special people.